Hello and welcome to Grid Live today. Joe Diego here. As Adam Rimmer, our expert, and college grad from Charlotte, Kobe Lambeth, podium finish. Congratulations on the second.
Thank you, Joe. It feels really good after 4 years of hard work to graduate from UNC Charlotte with a communication studies degree, mass media concentration, and a double minor in American studies and journalism. I'm not sure what's next for my future, but I'm glad to be here with the podium finish, Grid Network as well, and just talking about motorsports, everything that I love to do. For now, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy all of the racing and chatting with you guys as we always do every weekend.
And we encourage everyone in the chat room to join the discussion as well, as we're going to talk NASCAR Cup Series at the Monster Mile Dover. It's the only stop at Dover this year. Let us know in the comments. Do you believe Dover should have 2 race dates or just the 1 race date as they're going to have this year? That second race date is going to Nashville Super Speedway. So it's the same ownership group. So it's not a huge loss for the ownership group, but still for the fans in Dover to see a race day go away is not exactly a great thing. And of course, Martin Truex Jr., that's his home track as well. Dover, site of his first career win when it was with DEI. Unfortunately, that was the same day we lost Bill France Jr. So not a lot of celebration going on that day. But since then, Truex, of course, multiple wins, championships. He's going for another championship this win. And he is the favorite to win this upcoming race weekend. Do you see Truex as the clear favorite to set himself away from everybody else if he was to get this win?
Oh yeah, like we talked about, this is Martin Truex Jr.'s home track because he was born in New Jersey. He'll probably have a lot of friends and families in the stand tomorrow at Dover. Overall, he is the driver to beat. Right now, he's on a hot streak, and it's going to be hard to beat him at the Monster Mile.
And Joe, you mentioned Dover being Truex's home track. I'm like, how many home tracks does this guy have? It seems like every time he wins a race, it's his home track. But in all seriousness, I do think Truex should be one of the favorites to win at Dover. But I do think that this weekend it's not going to be a JGR driver on top. I think it's going to be a Chevrolet driver from Hendrick Motorsports.
And Hendrick Motorsports, of course, they're going to be looking at trying to get a win. It's pretty crazy to see some of the numbers from William Byron and how successful he has been this year with top 10 finishes throughout the season. Of course, we know he got a brand new crew chief that has been a big help in his confidence as well. Now, of course, Denny Hamlin, another confident driver, still has the series points lead despite no win. And of course, he still leads the grid rating when it comes to the NASCAR Cup Series. Truex is catching up with those wins. Do you see another driver besides Truex contending this weekend?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say no. I don't think we're going to see a repeat winner tomorrow in Dover. I think it's going to be a driver who found a lot of success last season but hasn't broke through to go to victory lane. I think we're going to see another different weeker this weekend at Dover.
I think so too. We've had a lot of drivers like Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, and Chase Elliott not win this year. So I believe it's about time for them to go out there and contend. Overall, I believe one of the 3 drivers that I just mentioned will win tomorrow on the Monster Mile.
The Monster Mile, one of the big things is going to be the 13th race of the regular season. And then we only have 13 more races in the regular season remaining. So now, especially if we have a driver that's winless, like Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick, it's now the time for those teams to really get concerned about earning that win, especially before Daytona, which is going to be the big wildcard race before the playoffs.
Oh yeah, they all better find a way to get hooked on board and finding they're just gonna have to find a way to win. I mean, we've had a lot of different winners in NASCAR this year, but it's weird to say we haven't seen Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, or Chase Elliott in victory lane this year. But I think that will change over the next couple weeks. There's a lot of good tracks coming up that those three drivers are really good at. So I think you will see all three of those drivers in victory lane before Daytona.
Yeah, and actually, I don't think it's time to get too concerned just yet. If I'm a winless team, there's still a lot of time to go out there and pick up a win. But if I still haven't won a race by the time we get to Nashville Super Speedway, I'll start to worry a little bit. But overall, I think those drivers you mentioned, Adam, Harvick, Hamlin, Elliott, I do think that we'll see them get to victory lane before the playoffs start.
One of the big concerns I see, especially if you're a Kevin Harvick fan, Kevin Harvick still, it seems that team, Stewart-Haas Racing, is not 100%. When we have the 13 races, and then particularly when we get down to 10 races, that's when everybody that's winless is going to really step it up. And with this season, after here, we got Circuits of America. We still have some more road course races. There's not going to be that consistent groove of mile and a half, and then, getting that rhythm, getting that momentum. If you don't have the momentum, it's going to get really hard, and I think it's going to be a big challenge to see Stewart-Haas Racing. I mean, Kevin Harvick, potentially he could get a win, but the rest of Stewart-Haas Racing, it just seems no luck, bad luck. You're just not there. Still, you could see a surprise winner. We saw that last year with Cole Custer, Kentucky. But right now, I don't see them being a potential when it comes to the NASCAR Cup Series. And of course, all season long, be sure to subscribe to the Grid Network for the NASCAR Cup Series coverage. Now we switch over to Moto GP.
The exciting MotoGP season continues with the French Grand Prix this weekend. Once again, Fabio Quartararo is on the pole, and after Jerez, he had arm pump surgery, similar to Jack Miller, who got the surgery before Jerez, and one after Fabio had the arm pump injury. How big of a statement would it be if Fabio was to go out there and get the win tomorrow? I mean, he's on the pole. It seems like Fabio Quartararo is the man to beat in MotoGP.
I do see him being the man to beat in MotoGP. The big thing was his surgery out of the way. We've seen there's a pretty quick recovery time. Jack Miller displayed that, and he went on to win that race. Fabio, in the pole, he's making a statement that he's back. If you want to contend for that championship, he's the person you got to beat. And when it comes to that race tomorrow, especially his home Grand Prix in France, this is the same circuit that hosts the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Of course, they're doing the shorter track, not the full 8-mile track. A lot of positive momentum, I feel, for him. And that's a big challenge for everyone, considering just the last race, a lot of people were wondering. Here he is making that statement, pole position.
I completely agree with you, Joe. If you want to win the French Grand Prix tomorrow at Le Mans, you're going to have to get by Fabio Quartararo. Starts on the pole. It's his home race, and he'll probably have a lot. And there's a lot of momentum for him. And if he wins tomorrow, he's the rider to beat. I know Marc Marquez is coming back from injury, but overall, I believe right now you have to be Fabio Quartararo to win the 2021 MotoGP World Title.
And the winner last race, Jack Miller, he's starting the outside of the front row where Maverick Vinales is in the center starting second, and Franco Mortabelli and Zarco with the non-factory Yamaha and Ducati. Marquez is in sixth place for Honda with his teammate Nate Suzuki, not in the top 10, 11th and 12th for Mir and Rins. Are we at the point where the competition is getting closer between the teams, or where some teams will start to show their full potential?
I believe you'll see teams start to show their full potential as the season goes on. A lot of teams. I know we're just a few rounds in against a long season, but right now you're gonna have to be Fabio Quartararo and Jack Miller along for the MotoGP World Title. I believe they will pull away, but anything can happen on the MotoGP World Championship, so we shall see.
I would have to agree with you. When it comes to the season, I believe we're at that point now where, especially Fabio Quartararo or Jack Miller get that win, you're going to see essentially the battle between Yamaha, Ducati. When it comes to the top 10, just about all of them, Yamaha, Ducati. Of course, we do have the two Hondas there. But the big thing, those Hondas, Marc Marquez has said, they're not exactly in winning contention form yet. Eventually they will, but I do see, especially what we're seeing from Ducati and the Yamaha group, they're the ones ahead. I do feel Suzuki might be lagging a little bit. This race weekend really proved that neither one of them getting Q2. And prior to this race weekend, Juan Mir never got into Q2. Was always in Q1, having to get into Q2. It's going to be really interesting to see how Suzuki starts responding. They really need to start putting something together, especially in qualifying, to be up there towards the front. So they're at the front at the start of the race and not just trying to get up there throughout the race.
Yeah, Suzuki's definitely going to have to figure something out with their race form. And so far, we have 19 MotoGP races scheduled with 2 that are still being determined. The U.S. Grand Prix and the Argentina Grand Prix. I know we all remember the horrible fire that happened in the paddock. And speaking of Argentina, we want to give a special shout out to Jessica from Paddock Insider. Congratulations to her on her engagement. Everyone at Grid Network, we're really happy for you, Jessica. So once again, big congratulations on your engagement. And final question in regards to MotoGP. What are 3 things to watch in the MotoGP race on Sunday?
Well, when it comes to the MotoGP race, some of the 3 things I'm going to be watching for is, of course, as I mentioned, Suzuki. What's going to happen with them? Can they make it up towards the front? And as they're going towards the front, where are we seeing their strength? It always seems to be they're really good with tire management. Is that going to be enough, especially with Ducati, which is harder on the tires? Jack Miller, we know his teammate is way back in the field, essentially starting 16th position. Could he really establish that he's the number 1 rider? Bagnaia has been really good all year. He comes in here as the points leader. This is going to be a big thing for him to respond and show, hey, he's not a number 2 driver. He is up there with Jack Miller. And then with the Yamaha, especially Maverick Vinales, he needs a good, clean race. He race 1, dominated, looked really good. Been off the map, off the charts since then. Now he's 2nd place. If he starts to fall back, people are going to really be doubting whether he's worthy of that seat with the Yamaha factory team.
The 3 things I'm going to look out for is, number 1, can Fabio Quartararo win tomorrow after starting on the pole? Number 2, can Marc Marquez finally find a way to get into victory lane after everything he's been through with the surgeries? And number 3, can Jack Miller go out and win again and be a contender for the MotoGP World Championship?
And yes, Adam, like the big thing that I'm going to be looking at is Marc Marquez. Before his injury, Marc Marquez was absolutely obliterating the competition in MotoGP, and as we expected, it was taking him a little while to get back to that form. He's looking better. Yeah, you see six on the grid there for Honda. And moving forward, are we going to see Marc Marquez continue to inch closer to the front? Are we going to see him return to that dominant form that we once knew, or is the injury going to slow him down a bit? I know sometimes we've seen riders get injured and then they come back and they're like a shell of their former self and they're no longer as dominant. I wonder if that's going to be the case for Marc Marquez, or he's just going to become, an average, I don't want to say average MotoGP rider, but maybe not as dominant, not winning as many races. And I think that's still to be determined, but I do expect that Marc Marquez, as the season goes on, he's going to become more competitive and he's going to be up there challenging for the win for Honda. And the race is going to get underway around 8 a.m. Eastern time, 5 a.m. Pacific, 4 a.m. if you're in Alaska. So that's a very early start to race day with MotoGP. Be sure to have some coffee if you're up that early, especially if you're on the West Coast or in Alaska. And be sure to end it with us on the Grid Live wrap-up show 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup race. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at Grid Ranking for programming time.
I encourage everyone to join us for Grid Life Wrap Up. Of course, Ben will be joining us. And Ben, of course, definitely he has his YouTube channel as well. So be sure to follow Ben Schneider as well. Great content from him. And we're expecting a great race today from the NTT IndyCar Series. They are running at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the start of 3 consecutive weeks of action at the Great Speedway. Today, the GMR Grand Prix on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course, 2:30 p.m. And then, of course, we have Bump Day, the Fast 9 qualifying next weekend, and the weekend following, Memorial Day weekend, the 105th run at the greatest spectacle of all sports, the Indianapolis 500. Everyone is anticipating the first day of practice on Tuesday for this year's Indy 500. But first, turning left at the 230 mile per hour turn 1 speedway, have to wait as we go through the 14-turn, 2.439 mile road course. Yesterday qualifying session was held in the afternoon with plenty of surprises. The big one, Scott Dixon Paddle Award, 1 and 2 in the championship. They are not in the top of the stands. As you can see, they are way in the back, essentially starting at midfield. Hugely disappointing session for both of them. Paddle 18th fastest and Dixon only managing 16th. Were you surprised by their lack of pace yesterday?
Yes, Joe. I was extremely surprised that Scott Dixon and Paddle Award were not towards the top half of the grid, but they're mid-pack towards the back. They're going to be fighting to the front, and I think they're in a treacherous position because the Indy road course, turn 1, is very treacherous. I mean, it is very. I mean, like there's a lot of things that can go wrong. We've seen it in the past with the starts heading into turn 1 where you can get knocked out. Your race can be ruined right there. Lap 1, turn 1, heading down into the infield section of the track off of the front stretch. So I think Scott Dixon, Paddle Ward need to make sure they keep their nose clean heading into turn 1, and then they can work from there, try to fight their way through the field. And overall for Aaron McLaren SP, they didn't really show a good form at all in qualifying yesterday with Felix Rosenquist just a few spots ahead of Paddle 18, and Juan Pablo Montoya, who's running this race to get back in the swing of all things IndyCar for the Indy 500. Montoya was the slowest out of everyone, and that was really surprising to me. So it seems like Aaron McLaren SP has a lot of work to do, and I'm not really sure what happened with Scott Dixon. It's really shocking to see him qualify that low.
I'll completely agree with you, Kobe. And if Scott Dixon and Paddle Ward make it at least to the first couple laps, I believe their pit stop, they're going to have a really good pit stop strategy in order to contend for the win. I was really surprised to see that. I expected them to be in the Firestone Fast 9 and contending for the pole. But the road course at Indianapolis Motor Speedway is really tough, especially going to turn 1. So, like Kobe said, if Scott Dixon and Paddle Award survive, it would. I think those two will be a contender for at least a top 10 finish.
When it comes to the two of them being so far in the back, you both brought up a lot of great points. That turn 1 could be treacherous. That could be the end of the race. Even if there's not the end of the race, any potential damage, if we don't have, well, we will assumably have a caution flag for any turn 1 incident. But if they'll be towards the back of the pack, pit strategy will be the only way to gain. And of course, they'll be dependent on a perfectly timed caution, as they will say, the danger zone during green flag pit stops, staying out longer, and having that work in their favor. This reminds me of what Colton Herta said at the beginning of the season. Everyone's going to have a bad race. It's just a matter of capitalizing the most when you do have a good race. This is a big opportunity for Colton Herta and a lot of those drivers to try to catch up, especially now. Dixon, Paddle Award, you're going to be mid-pack. If you're up front, huge opportunity to gain a lot of points, especially if Dixon and Award have bad luck. The biggest surprise, of course, has to be with who is starting on pole for the race. In his 3rd ever NTT qualifying session for the IndyCar Series, Romain Grosjean is a pole sitter. Grosjean's strong performance in qualifying made him feel a level of competitiveness that he hasn't felt in a long time. In the media center afterwards, Grosjean said he was exploring the possibility of finding a place in the United States to potentially sign long-term IndyCar deal. Romain is making his third IndyCar start to date. What should we expect from him with his start?
If Romain Grosjean has at least a top 5 finish today, that would be really cool and exciting for him. He's racing Formula 1 before, and all they do is road courses and street circuits. So if he can come out with the top 5 finish, that would be, I think that could be a win for him. I love it. I think Romain Grosjean races here in the IndyCar Series long term, don't be surprised if he's a championship contender down the road.
Yes, certainly. As Grosjean gets more experience in the IndyCar series, the car will become more comfortable for him. And I thought it was really interesting yesterday in the media center when he said that he was exploring the possibility of buying a home in the United States. And if you're not serious about staying in a series long term, you're not even considering that possibility. And it would be interesting to see if Grosjean would do that because we all know he's been a little hesitant about racing on the ovals, and rightfully so. But it seems like he's starting to open his mind more to ovals. That if he does race in the full time in the IndyCar series, I think he could certainly develop into a championship contender. A lot. I know I've said this a lot in this program before. That a lot of people forget when Romain Grosjean was racing for the Lotus F1 team. He was actually very impressed up there, finishing in the points. I believe he had a couple of podiums as well. So Romain Grosjean is a very talented driver, and I think when he was in a Haas F1 car, that towards the end of his F1 tenure wasn't that great at all. A lot of people forgot about Grosjean's talent, and I do think that being in the IndyCar series is going to be great for him. As he mentioned, he said that it felt nice, to go out there, be competitive, and actually feel like you have a chance instead of being in the F1 car and knowing like, hey, I'm just going to do the best I can. I don't have any chance of finishing in the points, and I'm just going to ride around. But Romain Grosjean has a serious chance of winning the GMR Grand Prix at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course.
And one of the big things when it comes to IndyCar, the level competition, seeing Romain Grosjean on this level is super exciting. We saw, of course, headlines all across the world, especially Formula One fans, talking about how from essentially his last race, the Bahrain Grand Prix, to now pole, it'll be a huge feel-good story for Romain Grosjean if he goes out there, get the win. Be sure to comment. Do you believe Romain Grosjean is going to win today's race? And if so, make sure you make him your pick a winner because we will share our pick a winner picks later on. Definitely got on board. We have some more people there. But you think Romain Grosjean or any IndyCar driver is going to win that race? Be sure to comment in the chat room. We'll love to share it with everyone. And speaking about pick a winner, another driver to keep an eye out for, Jack Harvey. He is rolling off the grid and he's starting third in the number 60 Marchand Racing Honda, entering the weekend 10th in points coming off the Texas doubleheader, where he had some criticism for his aggressive driving against Graham Rahal. Harvey has shown great promise on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. Could Harvey continue the streak of 5 different winners in 5 races? And is he a serious contender for wins, or does he need to show a little bit more?
Well, Joe, I certainly think that Jack Harvey could be a contender for the win today. I think he's shown a lot before that he has potential to win these races. In Texas Race 1, he had a really good race. Unfortunately, Texas Race 2 didn't really go so well for him because of mechanical failure, and he finished fourth in the top 5 on the streets of St. Pete. I think Jack Harvey is getting much better as an IndyCar driver as he get more races under his belt. And it will not surprise me if we see Jack Harvey break through and win because he's like really good at this racetrack at the Indy road course, and I do think that if all of our listeners out there are trying to figure out who to go for, pick a winner, I think picking Jack Harvey might be a good option. And one thing I forgot to add in the previous segment about Romain Grosjean, he said that the Indy road course that he could really tell that it was built for Formula One racing, especially since it's an FIA grade level circuit, and Formula One only race at grade level circuit. So that's why I forgot to add about Grosjean that he felt more comfortable at this track because it felt more like a Formula One track.
If Jack Harvey wins in Indianapolis today, it wouldn't surprise me. He's been a contender all year long. And I think it'd be really good for him moving forward in the season. Like we said, he's been really good on this Indy road course. And even if he has a top 5 finish, that'd be good for him as the season continues. But I think even if Jack Harvey does not win today, I wouldn't be surprised if he finds victory lane sometime this year.
I will not be surprised if Jack Harvey gets in victory lane. I think that's just what makes IndyCar so fascinating is you can have some of the biggest teams, Penske, Ganassi, and Ready Autosport. But then you have teams, Romain Grosjean, Dale Coyne, Rick Ray Racing, Marshank Racing. These smaller teams, they go out there and they have a shot at winning as well too. Still, takes a lot of effort, good setup, gotta have a good driver, and sometimes a little bit of luck to help you get there because we know racing, a lot of times luck. We've seen drivers just get the wins or put on their lap because they were in the right place on the last lap when the driver crashes, runs out of fuel, but definitely getting that win. I think this is really promising for IndyCar, and no matter how this race turns out, I feel just the headline of Romain Grosjean, if he was to get that win or even a good finish, a competitive race, this is really going to build up the momentum for the Indianapolis 500 later on in the month of May. But later on the weekend, in fact, tomorrow, we got some IMSA racing that we need to discuss.
Yes, definitely. We have some IMSA racing. Also, you can catch coverage of today's GMR Grand Prix at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course on NBC with the IndyCar pre-race show starting at 2 p.m. Eastern, and then official race coverage at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. So be sure you don't miss the GMR Grand Prix. It should be an exciting race in the IndyCar series. And before I dive too deep into our IMSA preview, I know we stated at the beginning of the 2021 racing season that we would have IMSA only content, and that will continue, but on a smaller scale. We'll be focusing on the remaining Michelin Endurance Cup rounds, the Salem 6 Hours of the Glen, and Motul Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta for the standalone IMSA programs. And as we continue our transition here at Grit Network, we'll add the IMSA sprint races to Grit Live pre-race. With that said, it's round 3 of the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, the Acura Sports Car Challenge at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. We only have DPI, LMP3, and GTD in action this weekend, LMP2, GTLM off. In DPI, Ricky Taylor and Felipe Albuquerque from Wayne Taylor Racing lead the standings by 8 points over the Mazda duo of Oliver Jarvis and Harry Tinknell. Those two teams definitely getting off to a good start. However, a team off to a slow start is the Action Express Racing. Wheeling Engineering team Felipe Nazir and Pippo Durrani are 7th in the championship standings, 118 points back after 2 races. So plenty of racing left to make up for lost ground for the Wheeling Engineering team after 2 6th-place finishes at Daytona and Sebring. What will be more challenging in your opinion? Wayne Taylor Racing and Mazda keeping the momentum rolling after a strong start to the season, or Wheeling Engineering Racing avoiding an early season slump?
I believe it's Wheeling Engineering Racing having a slump. Those we talked about those two drivers. They're gonna have to find a way to get back to victory lane. I know both drivers are successful here in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. So, Wheeling Engineering Racing better find a way to get back at least contending for the win, if not a top 5 finish.
I'm going to go with, I think the chance would be for Mazda. We know Mazda is exiting the sport. That puts a lot of pressure on themselves as well. Like any team that knows they're exiting, they want to go out there on a high note. So the pressure is on them, I feel, a lot more than the other teams. Yes, everyone's going for the win. But when it comes to Mazda, they know this is our last opportunity as the Mazda team to go out there and get that win. Going to add on pressure. And the big thing, of course, is things start to go wrong. It seems like that's when things just start to build up. And next thing you know, that early momentum you have is gone. And now you're just trying to contend to salvage something and get a win. I think the big pressure is on Mazda to try to continue that high momentum and try to leave on top.
Yeah, Joe, you bring up a really good point about Mazda. Naturally, that slipped my mind. That is their last season in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship for the time being, and I'm sure Mazda, the best way for them to go out would be obviously to go out there, win the championship, go out on top, and I'm sure that team is gonna keep on rolling throughout the season. Try to end on a positive note, but I do think that a lot of the pressure is going to be on Wheeling Engineering Racing, Felipe Nasr and Pipo Derani, 2 6th place finishes. I mean, looking at last season, they didn't really get off to a good start last season, but with Pipo Derani, they were still able to finish high up in the championship, and they had a shot towards the very end. So it's not necessarily a death sentence for the team that they're that far back in the championship right now, but they need to at least finish on the podium tomorrow at Mid Ohio to get some type of momentum going. Because if you get in a slump, bad things keep happening. You keep finishing at the bottom of your class, getting minimum points. By the time we get to maybe at least Road America, it might be game over championship wise. In regards to the LMDH platform, Porsche recently announced that they would return to top level prototype competition in 2023, reunited with Team Penske. And as I've said before, Team Penske and Porsche worked together and enjoyed a lot of success in the American Le Mans Series back in the day. And the team is going to be called Penske Motorsport, a 4-car Penske Porsche LMDH program, 2 cars in IMSA, and 2 cars in the FIA World Endurance Championship. Penske's IMSA team will operate out of the shop in Mooresville, North Carolina, while they'll set up another shop overseas in Europe for the WEC. Previously, Penske found, oh yeah, I've already said that, and now they're gonna get the band back together with Penske and Porsche to go after the Rolex 24 Hours Le Mans, and more. A couple of years ago, Chip Ganassi Racing concluded a similar program, fielding Ford GT entries on both sides of the Atlantic. What's the most intriguing aspect of the new Porsche Penske Motorsports LMDH program?
When it comes to the new program, I think it's just so exciting to see that we're going to have both sides of the Atlantic, Team Penske, Porsche racing. That's going to be Penske, which of course, everywhere, NASCAR, IndyCar, supercars, they have drivers that fans really tend to follow and gravitate towards. And now to have them in sports car, and especially some of the biggest races that we're talking about with WEC, Le Mans, Rolex 24 Hours, this is just going to be something where for the fans, for WEC, IMSA, they're going to be following drivers there now. They're going to be more vested in 24 Hours of Le Mans. It's a huge deal for sports car fans. I feel like in the United States, doesn't exactly draw the attention like it really should. But now with Penske and Porsche there, this is just going to bring a lot more attention, and especially American audience that follow Penske in IndyCar and NASCAR.
Personally, I love this news. Now with Penske back in IMSA and WEC, one question that's been boggling my mind is, now that Scott McLaughlin races for Team Penske in the Indy cars, did Roger give him a shot to compete at the 24 Hours of Daytona, the 12 Hours of Sebring, and maybe in the future, the 24 Hours of Le Mans? I love it. I think this is really cool, for Roger Penske to be back in sports car racing. I think earlier this week we saw him in an old sports car that he was an owner of. I love it. I know the American fans will love it, and the worldwide sports car fans will love it as well.
Yes, and I think with running a 4-car program in IMSA and the WEC for the big enduros, it opens the door up for extra entries like Rolex 24, like Chip Ganassi did with the Ford GT program. They entered obviously the 2 IMSA Ford GTs and then the 2 Ford GTs from the World Endurance Championship. With Penske running this 4-car program, we could potentially at the Rolex 24 2023, we could see 4 Penske Porsche LMDH prototypes, and then 24 Hours of Le Mans, depending on the entry list, we could see 4 Penske prototypes running for Le Mans. That's just really exciting. And you mentioned Scott McLaughlin, Adam, and I think McLaughlin's in the past he's also said that he would be interested in running some endurance races as well, getting that on his resume. And overall, Porsche figuring out the driver lineup, that's going to be really tough because I know they have a lot of factory drivers that would really like to be a part of that program. I know we saw Matthew Jaminet running LMP2 car, one of their younger factory drivers, trying to get some prototype experience. And I wonder if that could be a signal that maybe he might be interested in it, in the position. And also they have drivers who were a part of the previous Porsche LMP1 program who are still out there, like Brendan Hartley, who's now with Toyota. Also Neil Johnny as well. Some really fast drivers who found a lot of success in Porsche, and also I'm sure some other drivers as well who have prototype experience will be high up on Porsche's list. And then of course Roger Penske has also put some of his IndyCar drivers in the seat as well, so they might be in contention. So there will be a lot of seats for Roger Penske to fill come 2023. And coverage of the Acura Sports Car Challenge at Mid Ohio starts Sunday tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time on NBCSN. You don't want to miss the intriguing battles in DPI, especially the Acura teams trying to win in the manufacturer's backyard and the close action in GTD. Plus, Andretti Autosport is stepping up to the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship this weekend in LMP3 with Jared Andretti and Oliver Askew. And it's interesting because Andretti originally said that they were going to run the IMSA Prototype Challenge this year with the potential of moving up to the WeatherTech Championship next year, but they decided to get a head start on that. And I'm wondering, getting in prototype racing now, could we potentially see Andretti Autosport sign with the LMDH or LMH manufacturer?
It's definitely going to be very exciting. And of course, once again, we encourage all our fans, and especially sports car fans, be sure to follow us all season long. We'll have standalone IMSA program during the endurance races. And of course, there's a link in the video description to all our standalone programs. Myself, Kobe, and Aaron Vogel, sports car racer, breaking down the races. Of course, we've done Daytona, Sebring. We're definitely excited to be with everyone for Watkins Glen. Another thing that's pretty positive this weekend as well, the United States hit a positive milestone in this pandemic. Fully vaccinated individuals do not have to wear a mask or social distance inside and outside. Still, certain facilities like airplane, hospital, and businesses can require face covering, and that, of course, as well includes businesses and particularly motorsport venues that would still have the right to enforce that if they want to. Overall, for motorsports, we are seeing a big improvement where events like the Coca-Cola 600, which is just a couple weeks away in Memorial Day weekend, they're going to be at full capacity. Still, we're not 100%. Friday, IndyCar announced that the Toronto Grand Prix has been canceled. Turkey, which was set to replace the Canadian Grand Prix, has been canceled, and that has reshuffled the Formula One schedule, where Austria again will have a doubleheader. MotoGP, they canceled the Finnish Grand Prix scheduled to take place in Finland. A second race date has been added to Austria. So Austria, again, second year in a row, you're going to have a doubleheader for Formula One and MotoGP. Carlin Racing was forced to withdraw from GMR Grand Prix due to Max Chilton's travel issues. Justin Haley's out of Xfinity and Cup Series race this weekend at Dover due to COVID-19 protocols. So Zane Smith will be replacing Haley at Colleague. And Josh Berry making his Cup Series debut with Spire Motorsports, driving that number 77 Chevrolet. We still have a ways to go with this pandemic. We highly encourage people to get vaccinated, cdc.gov for all the information. Of course, your local and state governing health authorities. And I know you have a special report on Neil from the Supercar Series.
Thanks, Joe. A couple weeks ago, it was the beginning of the week, we found out that former Supercar Series driver and now current commentator Neil Crompton has prostate cancer. He found out about the news before the series went to Tasmania a few weeks ago. In a couple weeks, he will be having surgery. He's a former series driver. He competed with the Ford Performance Racing Team back in the day, and he's one of the best voices in the Supercars broadcast team. So all of us here at the Grid Network want to wish Neil Crompton a very successful recovery, and don't forget to look out for all the Supercars news right here on the Grid Network.
Thank you for that special report, Adam. And definitely, we're going to be keeping Neil Crompton in our thoughts and prayers during this difficult time for him. and we are looking forward to having everyone back at the track again. With that said, it's time for everyone's favorite game, Pick a Winner. Last week, Jay Pace from TikTok got on the board. Joe from WML, and here, oh my god. I mean, sorry guys, got a little tongue tied there. Adam got two last week with Lewis Hamilton, Antonio Felix da Costa. Matt got two for Hamilton, Cam Waters in Supercars Race 3. And for anyone not familiar with our pick a winner game, the rules are simple. For every new one, pick a winner of each race. Each race winner, you'll get a point, and this is just for bragging rights. And we're gonna start off with the GMR Grand Prix of Adam. Adam, who's gonna win the IndyCar race today?
Well, I'm going to have to go with the driver that had a very successful time in Texas. He's a former Supercars champion, and I believe it's his time. I'm going to go with Scott McLaughlin winning at Indianapolis today. I think it'd be really cool for him. After all the news about what he did in Texas, it was really cool to see. So, yeah, I'm going with the rookie, Scott McLaughlin.
Oh, Adam going with rookie Scott McLaughlin. Not really a rookie, but rookie in IndyCar terms. But I'm gonna go with the driver who's had some success at this racetrack, and it seems like that he could be itching to break through a score win. I'm gonna go with Jack Harvey to win the IndyCar race.
For me, when it comes to this race, I'm looking at past drivers that came from Formula One and have won at IndyCar. Nigel Mansell, Alex Zanardi. I think Romain Grosjean is going to be next on that list, and he's going to do it. He needs that good, clean start. Avoid any trouble in that first lap. If he ends the first lap with the lead, it's going to be hard to beat him unless strategy or a poorly timed caution hurts his effort in getting that race. And we definitely encourage everyone to participate in Pick a Winner as well, and encourage everyone to participate in the chat room to share their picks as well.
Yes, and next we have for MotoGP, I'm gonna go with Fabio Quartararo. Is gonna keep the momentum going, especially after the arm pump surgery. Is gonna be a big win for him at home.
I do see Fabio Quartararo as one of the favorites. Jack Miller as well. I think those two are going to have a great battle. But at the end, that Yamaha is going to be a little better when it comes to the tires. Overall, it just seems to be all around a better bike. I think Fabio is the favorite for the weekend, and he is my pick for Pick a Winner.
Okay, I guess I'll make it a clean sweep. I'm going to say Fabio Quartararo runs in front of his home track in Le Mans.
And now for the NASCAR Cup Series race at Dover, Joe, who you have?
NASCAR Dover is going to be really hard. It's the Monster Mile. I think Denny Hamlin's going to finally pull through. He's won here before. It's been a while, but he's starting second. Going to be up towards the front. He's going to be potentially the winner of the race at Dover.
When it comes to my pick, I'm going to have to go with the pole sitter. I'm going Martin Truex Jr. Like we talked about, it's his home track because it's the closest that series goes to New Jersey. He's starting on the pole, and he's carrying a lot of momentum. So why not go with MTJ?
And I'm going to be going with the new winner in 2021. And it's going to be the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion. Chase Elliott's going to break through and get the victory at the Monster Mile. And now, final pick a winner, IMSA. Who's going to win overall, Adam?
Well, I'm going to have to go with Wayne Taylor Racing. Like we talked about, I think that they're a good team at the moment. So I'm going with Wayne Taylor Racing.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's going to be a weekend sweep for Myers Shank Racing. I think the number 60, Acura DPI, Dan Cameron, Olivier Plas is going to take home Mid-Ohio, and Acura is going to be really happy to get a win at home.
This is going to be really tricky. I think we're going to see essentially Wayne Taylor Racing get that win, try to keep that momentum up throughout the season, and definitely we encourage everyone, be sure to participate in Pick a Winner with your picks on who will win each race. Of course, if you get a name correct in Pick a Winner, you're going to be on the leaderboard. We still have 8 people on the leaderboard, so plenty of time to get into pick a winner. With that said, one of the big things, of course, is essentially we're going to be talking about Sunday Grid Life wrap up, the results from all the races. So definitely tune in Sunday tomorrow to see if your picks also won. And we see somebody here with an Alex Bowman pick, so definitely it's going to be really exciting to see that. And of course, we have a lot of programming here on Grid Network, including the Women Racing to Win. That was aired on Thursday. There's a link in the video description. Myself, Daniel, we talked about the women racing around the world, including Haley Deegan, Jennifer Jo Cobb at Darlington, the track Too Tough to Tame. And as we count down towards 1 year of Life on the Grid being on the air, we have on the video description as well a link to our second to last episode. Sabri Cook from the W Series joins to discuss with Kobe and Daniel about her racing career and music from Ava Earl. Great episode. Be sure to check that out. And keep us on the air by visiting our Patreon. Big thank you to Mark and Yolanda, our newest Patreon subscribers. Thank you so much for investing in the Grid Network. They got a copy of the annual report for 2020. They're going to be getting the 2021 annual report, which is coming out shortly. So if you signed up, you could get both annual reports, plus all the exclusive access you get for the grid ranking in our Patreon page. And of course, Colin, our first Patreon, thank you so much again for your support all season long. And we encourage everyone to subscribe to the Grid Network right here on YouTube, as well as TikTok. Definitely growing over in TikTok. We're also on Twitch. And of course, you're watching on Periscope, Twitter, and Facebook. Be sure to like and follow, and be sure to follow the Grid World Motorsport League as well. And don't forget, if you have a dog, your furry buddy, be sure to visit Pawbless. Pawbless, 10% discount just for being a Grid Network viewer. Link in the video description. If you need new dog collar, clothing, accessories, they're the place to get it. And a portion of your sale goes toward helping homeless, sick, and rescued dogs, including the Grid office dog, who is a rescue dog, Kiska. You'll see her in a little bit in our closing. For Kobe Lambert at the podium finish, I'm Joe San Diego, and of course, Anna Lemeries, our supercar expert. Have a wonderful day and enjoy the races. Joe San Diego here. Want to invite you to go check out Pawbless. Pawbless is a dog clothing and accessory company based in Austria. 10% of each of your purchases goes to helping dogs in need, whether it's homeless, sick, or ill dogs. This is one of the reasons why we support it. Kiska here is a rescue dog from rural Alaska and our Grid office dog. We care about our furry buddies, and we know you do as well. Definitely check out pawbless.com. There's a link on the video description, and by clicking on that link, you get a 10% discount on your purchase as well.